What's up, Scotty?
What up, brother? How you doing?
Hi. I'm ready for this. I've been excited for this.
Dude, I got goosebumps just talking. Like,
Right?
dude, I'm like, man, oh man.
And not only that,
Oh,
but I shaved my goatee off today because
hey,
it was like all the way down here and my beard off.
me
So
too.
I'm looking prettier today.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Once again, though, not a face for TV.
Um, ha- have you seen this? I don't have a face or a voice, but here I am doing it.
Hey, well, welcome everybody to the 13th Dimension. We're really glad that you could join us tonight. We're very excited for you all to be here. Let's see here. All of our comments from earlier are already on there. Funny. Facebook
Funny,
user,
funny.
if you will allow StreamYard to see your Facebook profile, then we'll know who you are. Either that or just pop
Yeah.
in. When you type
Just,
in, just type in dash and then your name. Then we'll know who you are.
hey, I got a surprise, Tim.
What's that? Hi, Jackie. Oh, he's got the nugs.
I got the notes, dude.
And as
The,
always, here in the 13th Dimension, we bow to no corporate sponsors.
ever, ever.
Unless they want to start paying us, and then we will bow and bow and bow.
And yeah, right.
Well,
I will rub your feet. What up, Howard?
what's up,
Hi,
Howard? Hi,
Tim.
Ruby.
Hi, Jacqueline. But
Tim,
anyways,
yeah. Anyways,
tonight's
tonight
guest.
we have an extremely special guest for you.
Oh
Uh,
man.
this guy is a forensic psychologist and a paranormal investigator. He's also a medium. And we're going to bring him on and allow you guys to talk with him
Listen,
and
we're
listen to
not
what
going
he
to
has
tell
to
you.
say.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you an important part. We'll let him describe himself to you guys. But
That's
you're going
right.
to love it. I promise you. You're going to love it.
You're going to love this guy. And here he is, Mr. Robert. Robert, I didn't say your last name because I didn't want to butcher it.
It's okay. I've been butchered before. Anyhow, it's Italian name. It's Righi.
Righi. I
Righi.
thought that was it, but I didn't want to mess it up.
That's okay, Tim. If you want to call me Rigatoni, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine. But again, thank you so very, very much. And like I said earlier, that I am on my way back east. And I'm going to be stopping in Nebraska first. But right now, the train is delayed somewhere between here and Hell, which is Los Angeles, and so we're supposed to be gone. We're supposed to be leaving 3 hours ago, and I told them that I needed to do this podcast. It was very, very important, and so I am in the lounge here at Amtrak. Okay. So if you hear some people coming in, cussing and carrying on, whatever, it's not me. It's other folks. But anyhow, again, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate this opportunity and being on this wonderful podcast. I love, when I heard 13th dimension, I'm old enough to remember the fifth dimension back in the 60s, right? Okay. And I was telling my friends today that, I'm going to be on the fifth dimension. And they said, what in the hell? Are they coming back? I said, no. I said, I'm sorry, with the 13th dimension that I'm going to be on. So, but anyhow, so I've told a lot of folks I was going to be on this program. I've been looking forward to this program so very, very much. And again, thank you so very much. So right now here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it is beautiful. I was in Taos for the past month, and what I have experienced, I will get into that also. But just briefly, something about me. And like I said to Tim and Scotty, that at any time you want me to be quiet, close my Italian mouth, just go like this or whatever, go like this, it's fine, okay? Anyhow, I am a psychic medium, and I also have a master's degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work from the University of Florida. And for 30 plus years, I was a criminal profiler for the state of Florida, okay? My first experience was in the paranormal field is when I was 4 years old. and I'll be 67 next weekend. 67. And let me tell you, it's been a hell of a ride. It really, really has, in many ways, more than one. But anyhow, I'm, I love my birthday. The older I get, the better I am, really. But anyhow, so my first experience is when I was 4 years old. I'll be 67 next week. And my abilities have even gotten stronger being out here with my Native American shaman friends, and we can come to that in the written line. And my first experience when I was 4 years old, and the life isn't my entire life. It's probably maybe 25%, and the other 75 is doing what I do, what I love to volunteer. That's why I'm out here in the Southwest. I volunteer all over the country, and it's very, very important to me, especially with Native American brothers and sisters, And but anyhow, it's been quite an experience for me, and I'll go into that. But when I was 4 years old, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I am from Peoria, Illinois. Also, I must tell everybody that I am gay because I want everybody to be very comfortable with me, right? Okay, so I use my hands a lot. Being Italian and being Spanish and being gay, I use them all the time. If somebody cut my hands off, I couldn't talk. I couldn't. No, I really, that's the truth. But anyhow, I want people to be very, very comfortable with me. Also, my spirituality is based on my Roman Catholicism. I don't care what spirituality somebody has, it's not important to me. But for me personally, I don't try to convert anyone to anything, not at all. But for me personally, my Roman Catholicism. So when I was 4 years old, I woke up, and of course, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. This was now 1958, right? Hell, I didn't know what 3 o'clock in the morning was back then. Nobody did, No. But anyhow, so I went to the bathroom, and my parents thought that I was ill. And so my father got up and said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, I said, "Yeah, but I saw someone." He goes, "In the house?" I said, "Yeah." And it was a full apparition of Abraham Lincoln. And he was nodding and smiling. And later on, that was an indication to me that what I was experiencing was something that I needed, that was going to be part of my life, period on. And it was. Until my father thought I was just Josh and whatever. But anyhow, he said, "Well, just climb into bed with us and we'll talk about it in the morning." Those things that you're eating look so damn good.
Sorry. They are Wendy's chicken nuggets. And normally this is my MO. I eat Wendy's chicken nuggets on the shows. And it had been a while since I've had them. And I wanted to make sure that I had them for your show tonight. So here I am.
It's kind of our calling card. Everybody knows us. Like when Scott doesn't have chicken nuggets on the show, everybody's like, "Where's the nugs? Where's Scott's nugs?"
Yeah, I get people like, "Why do you not have your nuggies?" And I'm like, my bad. So,
well, enjoy those. They look very, very good. They look excellent. But anyhow, so I climb into bed with my parents, and then in the morning, my Spanish mother, took me to my Italian grandmother, my Nona, and then she took me to what I would consider a white witch. And I was scared that this woman looked like a hag. She looked like she was 10,000 years old. She was all wrinkly and gray and whatever, But anyhow, this woman, a bruja, which is Italian and Spanish witch, she put her hand on my little head, and I could feel her power. I could feel this woman's energy enter in my entire body. And I began to quiver, I remember. And then she could feel my energy leaving me, going into her, and back and forth. It was like a flowing river of all this energy going on. But I could not explain it like that when I was 4. I thought it was just exciting to me. And she grabbed my tubby Italian cheeks, Spanish cheeks, and she kissed me, and she told me that in Italian that I was very, very gifted. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea. And I thought, oh, she's going to give me a present. I'm gifted, But anyhow, she did give me a gift. She brought me out of the paranormal closet, if you want to use that term, which I do quite often. And so I came out of the paranormal closet when I was 4 years old. And I came out of the gay closet when I was 18 years old. So when you combine all that together, like I said, it's been a hell of a ride. And I'm not anywhere yet. Let me tell you, I still have a couple of rodeos in me, and damn it, I'm going to do them. I
There
am.
you go.
But going back to who I am and what I do is that I have quite a journey, and my journey, like what Tim's and Scotty's, we all have our own personal journey. And I am not greater or less than anyone else in the field or in the world. Okay. I believe that we're all brothers and sisters in the universe. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or whatever, right? And but for me, my journey in the paranormal field was in the 60s. Okay. 54, was born, 58, my experience. 50 years prior to that, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this, is that people were having seances, tipping tables, tea leaves, reading bones, and all sorts of things, right? And then in the late 50s, 60s, it became taboo. We didn't talk about it, not at all. And if we did, it was like, oh, maybe like in a comedy section or talking. I remember Johnny Carson when he used to do the Karnak thing, come out like a wizard or whatever, and try to read different stuff, right? Anyhow, but things were changing in America, socially and culturally. We had the Vietnam War, we had the civil rights, we had gay rights during that time later on, and Vatican II, if you were Catholic, and all this upheaval in our country, And so my parents always said to be very, very careful. You can talk to us about it because I have like 72 first Italian cousins and a lot of Spanish cousins. My father was born in Italy and my mom was born in Spain. But anyhow, but they understood. And I must also tell everyone who's listening that growing up in that culture of being Italian and Spanish, we went to the cemeteries all the time. It was like going to a picnic, family picnic once a month. We took sandwiches. The old man smoked, cigars and all that crap. We sat down next to the tombs. We touched me, put flowers, all sorts of things, right? It was common to do that. I've never been afraid of cemeteries. And my cousins haven't either. And we used to go to funerals constantly. I thought that was normal. I thought that was normal to do that. But my other friends, it wasn't. They were never taken to cemeteries, nothing like that. You know what I mean? But anyhow, and so growing up like that, going to a Catholic school, my father and mother said, never tell the sisters of what is going on. Hell, I would see kids, spirits waving at me and sticking their tongue out and going all that and stuff like that, Well, one time I forgot what my family said, and I looked out the window, and the sister said, Mr. Righi, what are you looking at? And I said, sister, there's little kids waving at me. She thought I was real, she had no idea. Anyhow, before I knew it, she came over, slapped the hell out of me, ended up on the floor, and she told me to stop lying and never to lie again. Well, 6 months later, I was in another classroom, and it just seemed like at the worst times that these spirits would come to me because I did not know how to turn it on and off, right? And the sister said, Mr. Righi, you're so being distracted, right? That I want you to come up and sit in front of my desk. And that's where her garbage can was. Here I was, a roly-poly little Italian kid, and I had to sit in her damn waste can. Oh, my God. I was humiliated. I would have been. Well, and then what happened, I was so damn fat at that time that my butt sucked down to the bottom of this damn garbage can. And when she told me to get up, the damn can stuck to me, for God's sakes. And oh my God, I remember the kids laughing, and I know that I can make light of it now. I can laugh about it. But let me tell you that during that time, I began to stutter terribly because the emotion, I didn't know what to do. Okay. My grades started to fall. I had to learn somehow to turn it on and off. I thought of a light switch and I tried that. Okay. But how I learned to turn off my abilities and gifts, because the dead were talking to me, right? And I could see things psychically, right? So what I learned was when the sister would say, it's time to read, open the book to some page, right? Whatever page. Anyhow, so I did that. So, and when at the end of the reading class or whatever it was, that she said, close the book. So that's how I learned how to turn it on and off. Took me a while, but I'm very visual, so I could see that in my mind. And right now, I'm back there sitting in that classroom, opening the book, telling the spirits within my mind to leave me alone. The book, excuse me, the book is open, and then we close it. Right. Anyhow, it took me about 3 or 4 months to do that. Okay, and that's how I learned how to close it off myself. And but it took a while. So my paranormal experience really led me later on in life to mentor these 15 children, in which I will call children of the paranormal. And these people have heard me on podcasts many years, like 6 years ago and whatever. And so they reached out to me. So we can go into more of that. Okay. When I went to a Catholic school all of my life. When it came to going to university, I did not want to go to Indiana State. I did not want to go to Illinois State or the University of Illinois. I wanted to leave the damn state of Illinois. I wanted to get out of it, because I knew that if I would have stayed, I would have never gone anywhere. That would be it. Okay? And so I told my parents that I want to go to the University of Florida. And anyhow, so they agreed. My father, not so much, because he wanted me to become a chef. They were going to send me to the Cordon Bleu, because I love it. And because he knew I was gay. And he thought that would be a better thing than being a forensic psychologist. He had no idea what that even was. But anyhow, so I got to go to the University of Florida. I took 2 extra years so I could study more about anatomy and physiology. And so I did. So I have a master's degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work from the University of Florida. I was a criminal profiler for 30 years. And we can go into that because I have seen the best of humanity and I have seen the worst of humanity. I have gone undercover to go into Liberty City, which is the Haitian part of Miami, because of voodoo rituals and stuff like that. I had to go to Little Havana, which I always was there anyhow, but I had to go undercover because of Santeria. And that's another story in itself too. And so being a forensic psychologist, I really experienced a lot. And so when it comes to my mediumship and psychic abilities, I combine those together and they're just beautiful together. And go into that more of that on. But in 1980, my spirit urged me, and the director or the department head of psychology and social work knew what I was, that I was a psychic medium, right? They were very open to that. And I said I wanted to write Sunday and to see if we could interview him because nobody had. He was 50 miles north of where Gainesville is, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I thought, well, I mean, the only thing that could happen is he say no, or we don't get a reply, and that's okay too. But I thought, why not go for it? You know what I mean? And my spirit, right? The award, a letter from the attorney stated, that we could go there. Myself and 4 other psychologists went there. And so we had to interview him in 1980. And it was a 90-minute interview. The only stipulation was that we could not bring any type of recording device, nor could we bring any writing thing. We can't bring paper, pen, nothing like that whatsoever. But let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, we were 5 feet from each other. There were no bars between us, nothing. There were security there, okay? And we can go into more of what that experience was about, because I needed to talk to him about the paranormal side, the darks. It's not that all people into paranormal are going to be serial killers. I understand. But there was something, the dark side of him. I wanted to delve into that even deeper. Okay. And so my main thrust of all this was that. Okay. So when it comes to forensic psychology and my criminal profiling, it was an eye opener to me. Like I said, I saw the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. And so then talking about even the paranormal, like I said earlier, that I had done a podcast. And a long time ago, there was nothing called StreamYard many years ago. In fact, you couldn't even see the person. You just called them up on the radio. I could have been dressed up as John Wayne Gacy, you know what I mean, or whatever, when the clown outfit, or maybe I could have been Captain Kangaroo, or Green Jeans. But anyhow, no, I'm dating myself. But anyhow, I had talked about these children, because if I went through all the pain, frustration growing up, and I have these abilities, there must be children out there. There must be children out there that are experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing. And so I talked about it. And that person is no longer living. That it was on his first podcast. He's no longer with this person. And so I talked about my journey, into the field and anything like that, and how I turned it on and off and stuff like that. And so I know the desperation, I know the frustration. And so parents reached out to me. And right now, there's 15 children, which I call the children of the paranormal. And I assist these children to turn their abilities off and on. Being a forensic psychologist and clinical social worker, I make sure that these children are not psychiatrically ill. Okay. Because I would be the first person to say to their parents, you need a psychological workup on the child, and these children are not. It's just not to have an imaginary friend. They're actually seeing other things too. And for example, Brianna, because I was born and raised in Peoria, Illinois, which is about 150 miles southwest of Chicago. And so Brianna's family reached out to me and said that she's doing some strange things, weird things. And I said, so I began to feel some things. I talked to her on the phone briefly, and she was quite gifted. And so I went up there to visit with her and her family. I always make sure the parents are in eye shot and earshot of me at all times to protect myself and the child.
Absolutely.
And so anyhow, she had telekinesis. I saw her with these eyes, with these old 67-year-old eyes. I saw her move things. Her parents saw her move things prior to that. Okay. And so Brianna was in one room. I was in another room with her parents. And I said, and I said, Brianna, there's a hairbrush on one of the tables here. I want you to move it. I want you to throw it off the table. I throw it off the, off the table that it's on. Anyhow, before I knew it, even before I even closed my mouth, that brush was on the floor. That's how strong the abilities that she had, or she had.
Crazy.
Amazing. And so she had other abilities too. She saw things psychically. She was an empath too. Anyhow, so there was Brianna and these other children. These parents reached out to me, but let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, that suicide prevention and awareness is very, very close to my heart, being in the field that I am. And also is that before these two of the parents reached out to me, two of their young adolescent children attempted suicide because nobody would understand them. It's not their parents didn't love them, and people would push them away. The schools didn't understand it like that, and that broke my heart. And I believe that God put us where we're supposed to be at any given time. So these parents were supposed to hear this podcast or this radio program that I did, right? And these other two children, these other two began to self-mutilate themselves. And when someone self-mutilates themselves, that when they cut themselves, they may not feel the pain, but what they see is blood, and blood is life. And they know they're alive because down deep inside they're dead because nobody's understanding.
Yeah.
Nobody's understanding. And I understand that. But let me tell you, these children, and so they reached out to them. Some of the children's families are very poor. There's several in Indiana. They're all over the country. And for the children's families who cannot afford to come where we go, we usually will go to them, okay? Or we will collectively put our money together so those families can maintain. It's very important. And now because of cell phones, the kids, they can, they can talk to each other, The parents now can network with them. If they have a question or if they have a concern, they can always call me 24/7, right? So before COVID, we were going to different places around the United States. And I wanted, like I said, I had gone individually to see these families and these children. And some of the children see ghost animals, ghost dogs and stuff like that. Some of them are empaths, some of them are psychic, some of them are mediums. There's just a whole array of different abilities that we have. But let me tell you, these children are doing beautifully. They're really, really doing beautifully now. And again, I taught them how to turn it on and off by a book. And let me tell you, it was the younger children understood that way before the older kids, And so a lot of times when we get together, that the little kid, and the youngest one was 5 years old, okay, and the oldest one was 16. But it was neat to see the little kids say, no, open a book, you open to the spirits, and when you don't want them to bother you, you close it. You open it and you close it. You open and close it. Anyhow, and it's just wonderful that these children are doing beautifully. Parents may not understand it, but what they do understand is that their child is not psychiatrically. Yeah. And I always tell beautiful children of the paranormal that never to get in the dark side, never to get into the dark side of it all, because it will be your ruination. I've seen it happen before. And so these children are doing beautifully. They are. So I'm so very, very blessed. But everything that I've done stems from what has happened to me in the past. Okay? What I also do within the field is that I volunteer at a hospice, and I assist these children in the last hours of their earthly lives. And of course, I see angels, and we talk about angels, and these children are wonderful, and I'll take stuffed animals. In fact, I was going to send a picture of one of the little boys that I was with, and I didn't do it, but I can do that later. But anyhow, I can say his first name. And I'm going to say that I believe in confidentiality, so I can say their first names, you know what I mean? But everything else is confidential. They have given me permission to talk. Their parents have given me permission to talk about them and use their first name. But being with these children in this hospice. And how I know of this hospice is because at one time I was taking care of my father. I had to retire early, and I was 90 plus years old. And my mother had passed away prior to that, and my father needed help. And I took my practice and everything in South Florida, and then I came back to Illinois, and then I became hospice for a week where he was called home, and that's another experience sometime that I can talk about. But so they asked me if I would consider volunteering at this hospice with these children, and I said that would be a. I said yeah. My spirit said yes. It was a perfect fit, and but being with these children, and I always shaved off my eyebrows, my hair, my mustache, everything because these children, a lot of them had brain tumors and such, and they were on chemotherapy. They had no hair at all, right? So I just wanted to show that I was with them, that I am with them. So they would come and pat my head and all sorts of things. But these children, otherwise, nothing are saying with them and such, and it was just it was just incredible. And we can go into more of that later on because that's a whole 2 hours in its own of what the children experienced and what the parents experienced also.
Robert, I wanted to say it really takes a special person to work with kids, and a lot of us out there know that. So we want to say thank you for all the work that you've done with children because it really. My daughter's empathic, and she didn't understand it at first. So we've finally gotten her to a point where she can understand what's going on.
Mhm.
And so it really does touch me that you work so much with children. We really appreciate that.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for that. But you know what? I am no greater or less than anyone. You know, that I am who I am and that God has given me these abilities and gifts to help our brothers and sisters in need. So thank you very much.
I was going to make you laugh a little bit and say that my mom used to say I was gifted and special too, and right before she whipped me every night, because I was I was one of those ADHD kids that way before the medicines came out,
Okay. Well, sometimes people have to be taken to the woodshed, as they said back in my generation. You know what I mean? You know, back then, kids used to get whooped. We used to see that word whooped, right? And kids were taken to the woodshed. But now, if you even did that, and anything like that, you would be arrested probably. You know what I mean? You know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know, but unfortunately, in our society now, things are so upside down. This universe is upside down. There is no one is civil to each other anymore. I talk about paranormal unity, and it's just like that. People have become so territorial. They,
Yes.
have, you know, and I always say, listen, there could be 100 meetings in a room, right? We will experience 100 different things. Okay. That doesn't make us wrong or right, but it is our own experience. So we must agree to disagree civilly, right? But
Hmm.
then damn shows on TV. Oh my God. I don't watch them anymore because I got to the point if I saw another Ghost Adventures or that other crappy show, I was going to put hot pokers in my eyes because I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it. You know what I mean? They're just outrageous. When somebody says, "Oh, did you hear that?" Well, hell, that could be a hamster farting. You know what I mean? Or it could be a rat or whatever. You know what I mean? Anyhow, I don't put much stock into these shows anymore. I don't. I don't even watch them anymore. I think they're ridiculous. I think they're part of their ruination for their paranormal field. I really, really do that. I really believe that. And but anyhow, so the paranormal being with the children who are in hospice, and that's very special to me. And then being with Kevin and Vivian, I have been personally involved in 2 exorcisms that were sanctioned by the Catholic Archdiocese of Chicago. And and you folks are in Indiana, right?
Yep.
Okay. So then you know of the Demon House in northern Indiana with that, I'm not going to say his name because he's an ass. But anyhow, but anyhow, I have no respect for him. That's why I want to put hot pokers in my eyes. I can't take it.
Yep.
Anyhow,
Yep.
so we know who we're talking about.
Oh,
Anyhow,
absolutely.
Father Michael is a Jesuit priest from the Archdiocese of Chicago. He's the one who did the exorcism on the house and the children and such like that. Anyhow, so I got to meet him because he is the one who performed both exorcisms, the one on Kevin and one on Vivian, but they were totally different. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this, that what I experienced getting to know these folks and then being in the same room during this exorcism, nothing comes close. Nothing. And so we can go into that at another time too, because let me tell you that Vivian was born and raised in a satanic family, satanic cult. She was ritually raped at a small age. She had two. She was impregnated twice before she was 12 years old. She had a forced abortion in her home there in Illinois. A doctor came there. The doctor was also part of the Satanist cult. Okay. Anyhow, Vivian, as they say, her personality split, it fractured. She had five. And that happens. That happens when, especially women, endure a lot of sexual, physical, and sexual abuse as children. And that's how they can protect themselves, right?
Right.
Only one of her fractured personalities was possessed, the others were not. So we had to integrate all of them except that one that was possessed, integrate them, right? And that's difficult at best. That took 3 months in itself, but we had to leave one alone. And that was the one that was exorcised. So that's the one that Father Michael performed the exorcism with. And that was done at Loyola Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. I was there for all of that also. We can go into that because it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Okay. And like I said, that what you see on TV isn't reality whatsoever. It's not.
Robert, I wanted to bring a question.
You
I
muted yourself.
can.
I wanted to bring
Okay.
a question up from one of our viewers, and I'll let you see it and answer it here. She wants to know if you think Ronald DeFeo from the Amityville Horror House, the DeFeo family murders, he claimed to be possessed by the devil, and that's what caused him to murder his entire family. And he died in jail and stuff, in prison. But she was wanting to know what your thoughts were on that, if you think that was a possibility or if that was a kind of an excuse that he gave.
Well, thank you, Irene. I think Irene is from Japan. So thank you for
Yep.
listening, Irene. Thank you, Irene. God bless you. One thing about the Amityville that I can tell you for a fact that it was no murder by anyone that caused that crap to go on in Amityville. It wasn't. A very good friend of mine who I think I can say his name. Anyhow, he was a child. He was a 7-year-old boy that was Kathy Lutz's biological son and George Lutz's son. Okay. George Lutz was his stepfather. This young man is a very, very well. He's middle aged now, but bless his soul, he's a very, very good friend of mine. And we have spoke 8-10 hours on the phone talking about this many years ago. And what he has related to me, that it was George that brought in all the crap into the home in Amityville. it was that he was in the Ouija board. It's not saying all people are in the Ouija board are going to do this, right?
Right.
But it's just the fact that he was into drugs, alcohol, he was calling demons upon himself and stuff like that, right? In the damn movie, they had George Lutz as being a saint. No, 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 no. He beat Chris's mother every day. Chris was the only child that was beaten out of all the siblings that were there, right? Chris is the only one, only child. He was beat constantly in what he recollects. It is his experience inside that house. He said, and I asked him about, I asked him about the oozing of the walls and all that crap. He said, no. He said that was a joke. That never happened. But he said at the very end of the movie, because the movie made George Lutz like a saint and in this and that and loving, and he wasn't. He was an animal. He was truly an animal, right? There were some days when Chris told me that he couldn't go to school because he was so bruised. And George made him stay home. Okay. At the end of the movie, if you remember at the end of the movie, they all run out and they go into this and they go into their station wagon, and the dog is laying outside, right? And the dog's kind of whimpering, and we see George so lovingly pick up this dog. Chris said that never happened. He stomped the dog to death, and then they took off. So Chris's recollection of what actually happened in Amityville is far from what you saw on TV and the movies. Far from it.
Yeah, I always like to say Hollywood loves to use that word "based on a true story" very liberally.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would have been a better story if the truth would have been known about George. You know, that would have been even a better story. You know, there are other
things. I would have never signed the rights for that, though.
Right. And so they moved from New York. They moved into California. Chris thought maybe things were going to get better, and they didn't. And if you ever see the interview of Kathy and George Lutz, if you ever see their interviews that they were on everybody's talk show back then, she was if you looked at her, she looked like a whipped puppy. Very quiet, very subdued. He answered most of the questions. But when she did, it was like she was really scared to talk. You know what I mean? Eventually, thank God, that they divorced. By then, Chris decided to join the military, and the military saved his life.
Right on.
Anyhow, Chris now lives in the Southwest. He's doing wonderfully now, and we still talk at least once a month. He's a good guy. He really, really is. But anyhow, so when it comes to like the DeFeo and all that, was he possessed? He could have been. Or maybe it was an excuse like she said, like they said years ago, the devil made me do it, And if you remember Flip Wilson, maybe these folks won't be listening to this, but Flip Wilson used to be on Ronan Martin's Laugh In. That all that crap, and he would come out sometimes and he would say, the devil made me do it, and stuff like that, right? But anyhow, I think the devil is blamed for more than what the devil should be blamed for. You know what I mean? When somebody goes to, what drives me nuts too, I'm ready to put hot pokers in my ears, because I cannot take anymore of these people say, oh, there's a demon here. Oh, please. At my experience, after all these 50 frickin' years in the field, I shouldn't say frickin' because they've been wonderful. It's very seldom. It is very, very seldom that you're going to like step on a demon. You know what I mean? It's very seldom.
Yeah.
We like to say if you were a butthead in life, you're going to be a butthead in death.
Oh, amen. I would use the word prick, but maybe I can't. But and I just did. So if you have to mute it, that's fine. I understand. But it's very true, Do I believe that we need to be redeemed? Of course. You know, of course, but some people are just not redeemable. I know some of my Protestant brothers and sisters would say, no, 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 that's not true. Everybody can be redeemed. No, I don't believe that. But anyhow, that's just me. But anyhow, and so the exorcisms, hello. And so anyhow, so the exorcisms of Kevin and the exorcisms of Vivian are very, very interesting. They said they could take, and both of those were taped. And right now, at this very moment, well, in the Vatican right now, that these films with other films of exorcisms and prior to that, of how we interviewed both Vivi and Kevin, those are being used to instruct up and coming exorcists. Okay. In 8 months from now, I will, and Kevin and I will be able to get the tapes back from the Vatican. And Kevin remembers some of what happened, and we can go into that at another time also. But there's a lot of things that Kevin doesn't remember. I have asked Kevin to, do you know what? Excuse me, I can't read that. Tell me what that says.
It's from Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson. She says, I love you, Robert. I hope you are doing wonderful.
Oh, Tessa, she's a beautiful friend from the beautiful state of Colorado. Really, when it's springtime in the Rockies. Oh, anyhow, I don't want to sing now, but anyhow, but anyhow, just what I have experienced, and I usually, I forgot this time, but I'm going to be on a train soon, and I'm going to smell like an onion patch. But anyhow, I usually bring an onion, and an onion has a lot of layers, right? So I tell people we have to peel back the layers to get to the situation, okay? And it's very, very important. So I do many things within the paranormal field, like I said. I also do past life regression, and I started to use past life regression in my private practice, and it works beautifully together. It does. It really, really does. But if somebody says to you, I can regress you, it's only going to take like one day or one. No, 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 no. Hang up on those fools. Because if you're going to do it correctly, it is a process. It is a process. It's not like you're going to start talking like a chicken or clucking like a chicken later on. Nothing like that at all. Nothing like that, right? It's nothing like you see on TV, but it is a process. And I know that the folks that I have used with past life regression as the type of regimen for them, that it does take time. And if they run out of insurance, it doesn't matter to me. I will pick that up myself. I will, you know what I mean? I will do that for free. I will do it for gratis because I've already started the process. And to end it because the person can't pay, that's crappy. You know what I mean? And so I do it for gratis after that. But so I do a lot of things within the paranormal field. Also, I must also say that I have done many, many internships at state hospitals in 1974, 75, 76, and 77. So I know the anguish, the pain, the frustration. I have seen the physical abuse, sexual abuse of our brothers and sisters in state hospitals. People must understand that during World War II, of course, with the Nazis and stuff like that, and the death camps and everything, that they were trying to rid that population of people that they believed were no good, right?
Right.
Okay. And that happened here in America. It was called eugenics. I don't know if you heard of eugenics or not. You have to look that up, eugenics, okay? Because what happened that people could drop off a baby at the state hospital gate in the early 1900s and on if they looked a little different. If they maybe had Down syndrome, such like that, right? Because they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed. Okay. But let me tell you, a lot of these people that were in the state hospitals, they were no more crazier than what we are. And maybe at times we're crazy, and that's okay. But it's just the fact that these children, they became mentally ill because of what they experienced there. I have seen people who were biters and they took out their teeth without using any anesthetic at all. Okay, I have seen people having high doses of Tegretol and phenobarbital because they were biters. Okay, I saw a young boy with a mask on and his hands behind his back because he had killed many folks, especially with Down syndrome in the state hospital. The state hospitals I was in was two in Iowa, one in Wyoming, one in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. And also I was at the only leprosy colony that was here in the United States, and that was in Homa, Louisiana. And what I
Dang.
there, okay. So when I see these groups that go in and they say, "Oh, I got scratch, I got," it's like, well, look where you're at. These poor people. When you go in, my brothers and sisters, when you go into these places, please, in the name of God or the universe, show some respect because these people never got respect at all. I had been on a ward or a unit, as they would say years ago, right, with 200 men and four workers, okay, you know, and to try to, and what I saw, it was one of the saddest things in my life. I tried to stop things, and I was stopped myself. Okay. I've seen people in 4-point restraints. I've seen people being restrained in closets. I saw ECT so badly that they were flopping around, these poor people. But now, thank God, through ECTs now are totally different than they were years. I saw lobotomies done. Some of them were done under anesthesia, and others weren't. At one time, my brothers and sisters, when I saw my supervisor come up and said, "Robert, that we're going to have popcorn this afternoon." I thought, "Oh yeah, that's cool." So I thought, "Well, where's the bowls at?" And she goes, "We don't use bowls." She goes, "Get a white sheet and you put it down in the day room, and that's where they put the popcorn. That's where they threw bags and bags of popcorn." And let me tell you, these poor people, they scrambled like animals to eat it. It was horrifying. You know, people eat their own feces. I've seen I think that animals in a zoo probably were taken better care of. At one time, I asked them how much is it per meal at the state hospital in Iowa. I was at several, and it was 33 cents a meal. 33 cents a meal. You know,
That's that's horrible.
yeah, it is. And so they were underfed, undernourished. I had to go to the med center, and I saw our brothers and sisters living in cages. They were steel baby beds. It was horrible. I tried to stop what I saw and couldn't. I tried. And so when I hear from our paranormal brothers and sisters that go into like Waverly Hills or they go into different places, right? And they're being scratched, let me tell you that they're being scratched because these people want to reach out to you as they reached out to me when they were alive, trying to get that human touch because we are social animals. And if we don't get that human touch, it's called failure to thrive. And it's very, very true, you know. And so if you get scratched, hey, you get scratched. If somebody pulls your hair, hey, you know what? That's okay because these people are reaching out to you for a specific reason. Their stories need to be told. And when I hear these asses start provoking these spirits who are trapped there, it's just like, oh my God, you're just making it worse. They're
Right.
used, they're used to that abuse. So my paranormal brothers and sisters, when you go into those places, go with respect. Please understand what these people have gone through by no fault of their own. Okay, so please look into the history of mental illness in this country and what they did to our brothers and sisters. It's a crime. It's a shame. It
It
really
is.
is.
It really is.
Robert, we have a house right here in the town that we live in that was part of a Ronald Reagan movie one time
Mhm.
called the Boy in the Window, I believe was the name of it. And it's about a mentally ill child who was
Mhm.
locked in an attic basically and spent all of his time, the only life he knew was in this attic, and he would look out the little attic window, and it's very small. I know which house it is. It's a very small window, and
Right.
people would see him,
Mhm.
and it was the only outside communication he ever had.
Mhm.
So we can relate a little bit to what you're saying here. It was a sad time in American history. It was a
Oh,
sad time in the medical history.
yes, in the field that I got into. And a lot of these psychiatrists were not Americans. No, they were from India. They were from Eastern Europe. The psychiatrists that I dealt with in the state hospital system in Iowa, they were from Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Bulgaria. So just think about what kind of education they had. You know what I mean? Because no American doctor, psychiatrist would work in a state hospital. Never. They would never, you know? In fact, in Peoria, Illinois, where I was born and raised, that some friends of mine that went to the Catholic school that I did, their father was a psychiatrist from Colombia, from the country of Colombia. They were from Bogota. Anyhow, I used to play on the state hospital grounds, and there were patients all around us all the time. But that we took candy to them, and we played. We went on the same swings that some of the folks could swing on and such like that. We always took sandwiches to them. It was to me again. To me, it felt very comfortable. So when I go into a state hospital setting, I feel like I'm home. You know what I mean? I try to release those spirits, but a lot of them are so imprinted in that building that they can't leave, that
Right.
they can't, you know. But again, my brothers and sisters, always remember that just because you go into a place, they say that it's haunted, which I don't like to use that word at all. That bothers me greatly. But anyhow, someone may experience something where others won't. The spirits are not like circus animals. They will not come out on a cue. You know what I mean? They won't. And they be quiet. That doesn't mean that they're not there because, and also, oh my God, that drives me nuts too. When our brothers and sisters say, well, we have to go at 9 o'clock tonight, or we have to go at night. Oh my God, please. The spirit world is around us 24/7, for God's sakes. Do you think they're sleeping during the damn day? Oh, please.
Yes. Yes. I've always brought that up. Like, why do we investigate just at night? Why not during the day? I've always wondered that because everybody wants to go at night. Let's do it during the day.
Well, I actually have a theory about one of the places we go to a lot, and the name of the place is the Old Lake County Jail. And it seems like the later at night it gets, the more that the activity dies down. The place actually feels heavier during the daylight hours, and I've always said that my theory is those people were locked down at night. They weren't allowed to be up. They weren't allowed to be moving around. They had to
Yeah.
be in their cells.
hmm And it's very, very true. I've been in places where it was during the daytime, and I got just as much activity, even more, like you said, Tim. That someone at night. You know, and God bless these people that have all this equipment. Oh my God, I don't know how to use anything. I don't. I don't. I just go by my abilities and gifts. But I understand that people use them, and God bless them. But I know that there are some groups out there that don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They hardly have any equipment, maybe an EVP machine. And let me tell you that when those groups reach out to me, I help them especially because they don't have the funds to go out and buy the thousands of dollars of equipment. You know what I mean? And those
Yep.
people, those folks that I have been with, they're very passionate. They're even more passionate than the people who have thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Okay. And so I help and I assist the groups that are living in the shoestring because they're very passionate about it. You know, they don't want to be the next Zach Bagans, or they don't want to be the next whoever and whatever, right? They're doing it because of the passion. They're not doing it because they want to be noticed. They're not doing it because they want to have their YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. They just want to find answers if they can. Mhm. And so, and again, know that when I say that, I know a lot of people get on my ass about, oh, Robert, why did you talk about people, the groups that have all the equipment and things like that? And but you know what? We hardly ever talk about our brothers and sisters that don't have much, you know, that
Right.
but you know, that are very passionate. So being the social worker that I am, and you know, I just, you know, try to get with the little guy and try to build them up and give them some kudos for doing, you know, for doing what they're doing. Okay. So now, something about me. You know who I am, what I do. You know I can talk till the cows come home, and that's like that. You know? And so it is up to you what you want me to talk about. It's up to you what, you know, like what direction you want me to go in.
Mm.
If you want me to sing, um, I love the state song of Indiana. It's something about the Wabash, along the banks of the Wabash, so far away. Something, right? Is that
Yeah, Jim Neighbors used to sing it at the beginning of every Indianapolis 500. The
yeah?
Wabash River runs right about what, Scott? About 200 yards from my house?
200 yards from yours, and I want to say like really close to mine.
About a
Oh,
mile from your house because
Yeah,
the
it's about a
actual
mile from
Wabash
my
is
house.
Huntington
Yeah.
Reservoir is on the Wabash
Yep.
River.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we live right there on the Wabash River. We're out there all the time. I'll be out uh, hunting not far from there this weekend, actually.
oh, deer hunting.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, good. Okay. And I'll get some backlash about that too, about killing animals, about eating, you know. Anyhow, and let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, I'm not a vegan. Are you kidding me? Please. I can't get enough lard and I smoke like a fiend. I can't get enough tobacco. I can't get enough lard. And at my age, I don't give two shits. I don't. You know what I mean?
you're on the right show. Then you're on the right show.
Absolutely. I do it. I have some Native American heritage myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we have traditions that have been passed down in my family, and we consume every part of the animal that we take. We don't leave any part behind. But
Wonderful.
we also donate meat to different places
Oh,
to help feed hungry families.
right. Thank you. Thank you for that because I know it in Illinois, it's called Hunters for Hunger.
Mm-hmm. We have the
You know,
same program in Indiana.
very good. Because when I'm home, and when I'm home in Illinois in Peoria, I always volunteer at several soup kitchens and such like that. And one of them, like I'm going to be volunteering when I get home in Illinois, that every Thanksgiving we serve out 5,000 meals that are delivered to people that need them, and we get about 400 people that come inside and such like that. So when I do go home, which is very soon, that I will go there. You know, we make about 500 pies. We make homemade apple pie and stuff like that, and raisin cream pie and pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie and stuff like that. But anyhow, the volunteerism is very, very important to my life. So
You can
now,
always
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
volunteer and come to Indiana, and I'll eat some pie if you want to make some pie. I'm just saying.
So what kind of pie? So what kind of pie do you like?
Oh man,
Do you like rhubarb strawberry?
rhubarb strawberry, key lime, chocolate cream, old fashioned sugar cream. Yeah, pies. Yeah, I like pie. Blackberry
Here in
pie.
Indiana, we have something called sugar cream pies.
And I
Oh,
heard that because of the Amish in northern Indiana, like
Yep,
in
that's where we live.
Elkhart, Shipshawana, Wakarusa, Napanee. I know that area well.
oh,
I had cousins that went to Goshen College in that area.
Yep.
Okay, and so the Mennonites and the Amish are very close to my heart. So that's how I heard about it. And something else called whoopie pies. I love making whoopie
Whoopie
pies
pies. Yep.
and shoe fly pie. That's another one that I've heard of.
I've heard of it. I've never had it.
Okay. Anyhow, so
But
So-
yeah, I actually had a question for you about your time as a criminal psychologist and criminal profiler, and how some did any of that negativity or that mindset that you had to be around doing that affect you personally at different points in your life?
my brothers and sisters, I had to learn how to detach myself emotionally. You know, when you get a call at 1 o'clock in the morning or you're on call and whatever, and you get a call and you go to a dumpster and you don't know if you're looking at a rag doll or a baby, it takes its toll. Okay. How I separated myself emotionally is that when we were done for the night or for the day, sometimes that we would be in the field 14, 15, 16, 18 hours. Okay. And that I learned through Mother Teresa of Calcutta because I volunteered at an AIDS hospice in Miami. And meeting her, through her, I learned how to do interior prayer, to meditate, you know, turn off the damn phones, turn off the TV, turn off whatever, and just listen to your spirit, reconnect with your spirit. Okay. Right now, my brothers and sisters, that with everything that's going on in the universe, we need to reconnect in who we are because a lot of folks have lost themselves because of all the crap that's going on. There's so much diversity, there's so much division,
Right.
just not in the country, but all over the world. And what's even more sad, there's a lot of division within families. And that's what is so sad to me also. Okay. So what I do is I meditate. When I get a call, go out into the field, I cover myself with white light completely. I ask my angels. I have a little guardian, a little baby. Her name's Angelina. That's another story in itself. And also Raphael, the archangel. And I go to them constantly. And we all have angels, guides, spirits. Okay. And they protect me also. Okay. Because being a criminal profiler, my brothers and sisters, we become the victim. When you are called out in the field and you see it's a woman and she is mutilated, her torso has been mutilated, she will be decapitated. I don't want to go into a lot of the gore, you know what I mean? But it's just a fact what I have seen when you see a woman that her nipples have been tore off or that she has burns, just not only women, but children too, having burns all over their bodies. As a criminal profiler, we become the victim. We find out who they are, what they liked, what they disliked. Where did they go to school? Where did they go to restaurants? Where did they go to church? We become them because more times than not, the perpetrator is going to be a family member. It will be a friend or a friend of a friend, maybe an acquaintance. It's very seldom, it's very seldom that someone murders somebody randomly. Okay. More times than not, we're going to have a connection. Okay. So dealing with that every day. And let me tell you that when I first got in the field in 1980, DNA was not discovered until 81, 82, 83 at best.
Right.
It wasn't. And so a lot of people were wrongly convicted and stayed in prison for years and years until these lawyers got together and ran more DNA and everything. And a lot of these people able to be released from prison. Okay. And let me tell you that when I got into the field, something called Miami Vice was on TV. Do you guys remember that? Don
Absolutely.
Don Johnson and all that stuff. Well, we wore khakis. I wore the pastel shirt. We did the whole thing. Dockers, you name it, that
Yep.
was okay. But we never carried guns because we were not police at that time. We weren't police at all. Okay. I remember when I got in, when I graduated, and the director down in Miami called me and said, Robert, we want to hire you. I said, okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So my first job was in Orlando, and we can go into that because I was there before Mickey Mouse was really Mickey. You know what I mean? I mean, it was still a swamp. And there was no
Right.
such thing as Universal Studios either when I first got there. But he said, Robert, he said, you have more education than I do. He only had a criminology bachelor's degree in criminology. Okay. And again, it's not all about me, and it's not, but I knew forensics was going to be there. It's going to be up and coming, thing. And so, and social work is very close to my heart, which is another story in itself. And so he goes, Robert, he handed me this yellow this yellow pad, and he said, I want you to write the protocol of what to do and investigate. You know that show that's on TV, sometimes it's called the first 48 hours, which are the most critical, most crucial. A lot of that, what they're going by. And I don't want to blow my horn or nothing like that, but I must say that there are several chapters in these books that up and coming forensic psychologists, it is required reading and writing a paper on. But there's two chapters that I have written personally many, many years ago about that, how to do it appropriately, what state of mind to be in, and such like that. And but anyhow, I loved my career. There are things that I couldn't change, and I understood that. I burned out right away within the first several months, and I'm glad I did then because I understood it then. There's something called Annie Sullivan syndrome. I don't know if you know what that is or not, but Annie Sullivan was Helen Keller's teacher.
Right.
Okay, and so the professor told us right before we graduated, there's going to be probably 45% of you that are going to try to save the world, and you can't. You can't save the world. You can bring them up a bit. Don't let them fall back down in the cracks, but you cannot save everyone. Well, I thought I could, and I burned out within the first 6 months, and I'm glad I experienced that the first year. And that's why I stayed in, because then when I began to do more seminars and became supervisor and such like that, that I told about the burnout and what to do and try to stay away from it. But people are hard headed, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? So they're going to do it. Um, but it was difficult when, like I said, when you get a call, and if it's a baby, especially, and it really tugs at us. Somebody asked me if I cried. I said, of course I cry, for God's sake. You know, I think people don't understand when when people say, oh, oh, you got to be so strong for your family. That's bullshit. Please, being strong is overly rated. All you're doing is putting guilt on the person. You know what I mean? Shed those tears. Let them, because we already shed tears emotionally inside of us. Let those tears come out. They're very cleansing for us to do. And even when the children pass away with that, and the children in the hospice, when they pass away, I cry. I cry. To see their mother weeping and wailing, their only child that they can have naturally is dead. Oh my God. To feel that pain, to feel that anguish, to feel that anger. And she goes, Robert, do you think it's okay for me to be mad at God? I said, damn right it is. I said, if you're mad at God, tell him that you're mad. Tell him that you're pissed off. And that's okay. God understands. God understands. Okay. I said, don't. don't allow this stuff to be stuffed even more down in you. You must let it go. You know,
Absolutely.
you know. So anyhow, anyhow, now you know who I am and what I do, and it is up to you what you want me to talk about, or if you want to take a 10-minute break so we can smoke some peyote or maybe a little weed. Legal in Illinois. The train. I just saw a note that somebody brought in, and the train is another 45 minutes late. So hell, I'll never make it back to where to Nebraska where I'm going. Not tonight, of
Right.
but anyway. So
I know
it's up.
Scott had some questions too for you about Mr. Bundy. I'm sure he's got a few, so I'll let him ask.
Sure, Scott.
You know, man, just being in that room with Mr. Bundy and looking at him, since you're a medium, did you feel what was the energy like being around him?
Okay, we were allowed. Can I? Okay, okay. We were allowed to interview him for 90 minutes, right? I've
Yes,
got
sir.
the stipulations whether we could not bring any writing paper, we couldn't record anything, right? So we go into that room. We were sitting there waiting for him. Now we have three female psychologists that were dressed differently, and there was a reason why we did that. And then another male psychologist that looked like Don Johnson from Miami Vice. But anyhow, and and but anyhow, we were there waiting for him. And before he even got there, being in that room, because he had been in that room apparently before, it was heavy. I could feel the negativity. I could feel the heaviness of the air. Now the other psychologists never did. They never felt any of that, but I did. And just the anticipation, you know, and we all talked before prior and saying that we're not going to allow our emotions to get the best of us because that's what he wants. You know what I mean?
Right.
So So I was sensing and feeling that really started weeks before that when I wrote this letter and when I received a letter from him, and I still have those letters to this day. And just that energy from that letter, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so I wasn't surprised what I was feeling, and I wanted to feel that. Granted that I protected myself with white light, but I wanted to feel that. I wanted to feel what his victims were feeling also, the innocent victims. Okay. One of them was a 12-year-old girl. I don't know if you knew that or not, but one of
Yep.
them was okay.
Yeah.
And and so then he comes into the room and he's shackled. He sits down. It's like I said, 5 feet from us, 5 feet, you know, and to be in the same room, to be in the same room with someone that has such negativity, so much darkness, so many lies, betrayal, so many just horrible, horrible things. He just didn't do horrible things to these women, which he did. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, I am not by no means glorifying what this SOB did. Not at all. But we need to know and understand the dark side of him, of why he did what he did. Do I believe he was mentally ill? If you believe that narcissism is a mental illness, then he was mentally ill. Okay. Do I also believe that he was possessed? You damn right I do. Yes, I do. Okay. And again, what I experienced in that room is totally different than what the other psychologists did. When I was talking to Bundy, his eyes were dead. They looked like walnut. You know how walnuts come in that shell and they're black or whatever, right?
Yep.
They were completely, there was nothing behind them. Nothing. I felt that. But the other psychologists never saw that. Never saw that at all. I saw him sweat terribly, but when they but they did not notice that at all, you know? when I was talking to him, he was a bit fidgety. I remember one time him saying to me, I know who you are and I know what you're trying to do. And I didn't respond to that whatsoever because he wanted to have this dialogue. He wanted to have this debate. Screw that. You know what I mean? So I didn't debate with him at all. But just being in that same room and 90 minutes went so fast. It really it went very, very fast. Okay.
Right.
I must say that. Do you want me to go into more of the other psychologists that were there to give some insight or not?
Well,
No, go
it
ahead.
led into my second question. So, like, given your educational background and your mediumship, uh, he he confessed to 36 murders,
He
but
did more than that. He murdered more women than
right.
that. He did.
Yeah, and I'm going to say experts say that it could be as much as 100, and I just wanted your personal opinion on what you thought with how you felt about it all.
He murdered at least 150 women. 150. And how I know that, my brothers and sisters, is of what he said to me. I said to all of us, right? But when the victims came to me while we were were interviewing him, and these female victims were coming to me, the spirit saying, no, it was more than that. It was more than that. Way, way, way more than that. Okay. And so we can go into how I had a dialogue internally with these victims as Ted was talking about them. And again, I was coming from the side of the dark side.
Right,
Okay. I wanted people to understand how he got into this. And it starts from the point of him being born. I don't know if you folks know this or not, but his mother, Ted was born in Vermont, and his mother, her name is Eleanor Louise, and she went by Louise Caldwell. Ted was born in Vermont. From Vermont, they moved to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is where Ted's um, Ted's grandparents lived. His
right,
grandparents end up adopting him, right? Well, as Ted tells us, told me and the other psychologists, that he began to do, he'd say, creepy things, weird things. Like he would openly masturbate at a very young age. He would begin to steal things. He would just do things just off the chain, right? They took him to a psychologist. They did all this testing, and yes, he was a bit off and whatever. So they put him on some medication and everything, but that never helped. He just got into more and more in trouble. So his mother, Louise, decides to move to Seattle, Washington, clear on the other side of the country. You know, oh, look how pretty. Oh, let me see
that
that.
would be that is Ghost.
This
Ghost
is
back and
Ghost.
making
He
an
interrupts
appearance.
every podcast we do.
Yep.
Mhm. Wonderful, wonderful.
He loves to come in and pop in.
He
Nothing
does.
wrong. Nothing wrong with that. I'd rather see that cat than see Ted Bundy. Yeah, you know what I mean. But anyhow, and I'm really surprised that he's not. Now that I say that, he probably started screwing up with things. But anyhow, but they moved to Seattle, Washington, and, and things just did not go well. He was tested again, and he was in the range of 136, which is the gifted range and such like that. He was very charismatic growing up. He was, very good looking, whatever. And but he got into the Ouija board. It's not that all people who get into the Ouija board are going to be serial killers. They're
Right.
not. Okay. But him and his little friends got together, played with the Ouija board. They started to summon demons. They decided to go out and kill rabbits and squirrels, or no, catch them, trap them, bring them back, tie them to the board and dissect them while they're still alive. Okay. And Ted was saying that. And he said it very calmly. He talked about the Ouija board. He taught, and this one documentary that I did see later on is that he did talk about calling for demons and such. And that's what he did with the board. And again, not all people who use the Ouija board are going to call, going to end up being a serial killer. They're not.
Right.
What set Ted down into the abyss was the fact that his relatives, his cousins, came out to see him out in Seattle, right? Well, his little cousins were telling him, "Do you know who your father could be?" No. And his cousin said, "We think that it's Grandpa. We think that your father is Grandpa." Well, that threw him in a tizzy. He went to ask his mother, and his mother goes, "I don't know who your father is." Okay. How he got the last name Bundy was the man who Louise marries later, and then he adopts Ted. Okay.
Okay.
So anyhow, so now here we get all these kids tell him different things. He's getting more frustrated. And then one of his cousins says, "Do you know who your mother really is?" "Yeah, my mom's in there, Louise. Eleanor's her first name. That's my mom." And his cousin said, "Yeah, she is your mom, but she is also your sister." Does that make sense?
Dude, that's crazy.
You know? And that threw him even more into this abyss. Okay. And again, he didn't know who his father was. They were telling him it could have been uncle, it could have been whoever. But now his own mother has lied to him, who is really his sister. Okay. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, that every woman he murdered, except for the young girl who was 12 or so, looked like Louise. It looked like his mother. All of them did. He decapitated 12 women. And Ted would say that he did it, of course, because of trophies and such like that, right? But what he did also was that he would have the torso in a black bag or whatever in the back of the trunk, but the heads would be driving on the passenger side. Okay. He would talk about stroking the person's hair, the woman's hair, the head. Okay. Also, that I asked him specifically because he had a very hard time performing a sexual act. Okay. But what aroused him wasn't the anatomy of a woman. What aroused him was when he saw the fear in the woman's eyes. That's what got him sexually excited, was that. He talked about how he manipulated women. He had gone to the university there and had a degree in psychology. And I asked him about that. I said, "Why did you want to become a psychologist?" He said, "Because I wanted to know how to manipulate, especially women, better." Okay. And so it is just like one layer after another. Okay. He plays with the Ouija board. He was raised in a very strict Methodist church. And when they did go to church, he would go into the choir room and masturbate on the choir robes of women. Okay. And he would do that, all sorts of things. And I asked him who his mentor was. And I wasn't surprised how he learned how to dissect how to peel skin off of one, right? He said that his mentor, man that who he loved, was Ed Gein.
Hmm.
Okay. Ed Gein's life is loosely based on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yep.
And it was Ed Gein. Okay. And Ed Gein was still alive at that point. And so he would converse with Ed Gein. Also, I must tell that our brothers and sisters that uh that he how can I say this? Um maybe I won't. I won't. I'll save that for another time. But anyhow, so his mentor was Ed Gein, and he did he did try to well he helped the police. I don't know if you guys know about that or not, but he did help the police to get someone arrested. I don't know if you know about that or not.
No.
Do you, Tim, do you know about it?
Yeah, I had heard something about that once. I believe either in a documentary that I watched or one of the movies that I watched about his life.
Right.
I remember hearing or seeing something about that before.
Right. And it's very true. Now, and so I'll just say it that, and I asked him about this. Ted is the one who sent the MO to the FBI, to the police regarding the Green River murderer, serial killer. Okay. And I asked Ted, why did you do that? And he said, Robert, you're so damn dumb. And he called me damn dumb all the time. He called me a fucking faggot. Oh, excuse me. He called me a faggot. You know what I mean? I mean, he hated me. He hated me, you know? But he said that the reason why I wanted him killed or him arrested was because he's taking all the good stock.
Ah.
That's what he considered women was good stock. So the Green River serial killer was getting the best of the breed, as they would say. And he even called him that too. You know what I mean? Anyhow, he was the one that was very instrumental in getting the Green River serial killer caught. And I see a
Wow.
question. And can you read that to me, Tim?
Uh,
Yeah, it says, do you think it was his childhood or his mental state or like his mental makeup that made him the way he was?
It's a combination of a lot of things. It was a combination of betrayal. It was a combination of lies. It was a combination of everything. Everything. Everything piled on top of each other goes layer, 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 layer. Okay.
mhm.
And when you mix that negativity, when you mix that betrayal, when you mix the lies and all that together, it's a perfect storm. It's also
Right.
a perfect storm for someone to become possessed. And possessed he was. He wanted to become possessed, and that came from his mouth too. He wanted to be possessed because he believed he was so damn narcissistic. He believed that he could be in control of a demon. Well, no way. No way in hell. No way at all. You know what I mean? And so, but again, I'm not glorifying what he did because what he did was horrifying. It was
Right.
heinous. It was horrible. Now, I also have to tell you that there was a young girl, and she was in high school when I was in grade school that lived on my road outside of Peoria, Illinois. She was one of the victims of Ted Bundy. Back when she graduated, that kids were hitchhiking all the time. Nobody thought about it. It was the time of free love and the Monterey Pop Festival and all that stuff, right? People were
Right.
hitchhiking. People were hitchhiking all the time, right? Well, she decided she wanted to go see Seattle. She heard how beautiful Seattle and Portland was and everything. She wanted to go to San Francisco, and she went, but she ran into Ted Bundy, and that's another story that we can go into also. Also, I must tell you that Nobody has heard of this case before, but me being gay, it really hits home to me. Back in the 70s, when I turned 18 in 1973, everyone would go to San Francisco. It's almost like a pilgrimage to Rome, which being Catholic, you got to, and being Italian, you always go to Rome, right? So I went to San Francisco, and my God, I couldn't believe all the damn hippies and everything like that, everything, and the free love and everything. Is like, oh my God. Here I'm coming from the Midwest, and then, thinking, oh yeah, I can do anything, but it was just different to me. Anyhow, it's called the Doodler. From 1970 till about 73, 70, no, 70, excuse me, from 71 till about 75, 76, there was a gentleman, not a gentleman, but he was an animal, and he would go into the gay bars, and he was gay himself. And he was a beautiful sketch artist, right? Well, he would go up to see a guy that he liked, attracted him, and he would doodle him. He would do a sketch. That was his opener to meet these guys. And then he would murder these men. And that serial killer was never on the news, never at all. You know what I mean? But he killed a lot of our brothers and such like that. And the case is still open. But the one thing that had in common was that he always went to gay bars. He always sketched people. Then he went up and said this and that, and the people would buy him a cocktail, whatever, and then they would end up going home, and then he murdered them. He did not only murder them, but he also cannibalized them also. When one cannibalizes someone else, it is because they want to get closer to them, like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
It's also like men who kill their mothers and begin to cannibalize them because they want to feel closer to their mother. They want there more of her DNA inside of them. It's sick as hell. It really, really is. But that does happen. It does. Ted Bundy cannibalized some of these women.
Yep.
And there's and again, I'm not glorifying it, but these women, their stories need to be told. Do I believe he was possessed? Yes. Do I believe that he was mentally ill? Yes. He was a perfect storm. It was going to happen somewhere along the line. It was going to happen. It was predestined in him before he was born. I believe that. He truly also said that he believed that he was possessed. Because he said, even being in there in prison, of what he saw and what he felt, and then in the same vein of things, he would say, that I was raped by 4 men in here. None of us responded. So what did he want us to say? Oh, poor Ted, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Hell no. No. Let him be raped 1,000 times. I could give a crap. You know what I mean? And it's not that I'm sympathetic to anyone who is mentally ill, but he had the choice. He had the choice. He could have said, he had free will. Everyone has free will. And I understand when somebody's mentally ill, a lot of times that free will is just thought about maybe in a split second, and that's it. Maybe I shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? But he wanted to do it. He hated his mother. He hated what was going on. And so what do most people want to do for revenge? We want to hurt the person, right? We're trying to make them hurt as much as we're hurting, and it never works. So you have to, and then narcissism says, you know what, Ted, you did it one time and you got away with it. You can do it again and again and again. But what happens is that narcissism will bite you in the ass and eventually, because you begin to get too cocky. That's what happened to the BTK killer, BTK in Wichita, who I write to. I have letters from him, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Son of Sam, uh, that whole thing just fascinates me. You know what I mean? So anyhow, that was my experience, and there's more things I've experienced with Ted Bundy that, again, it could take an hour or so in itself
Right.
of how he manipulated these poor women, you know, and how he reeled them in, and how he killed them, murdered them, and we can go into that also. That most of my paranormal brothers and sisters who are listening to this don't know of what I experience next. And that is for another time, because what I experienced right after leaving that room, and during that room, leaving the room, and then later on.
Yeah, and I definitely want to have you back to
Oh, for sure.
explain that. Oh, right, right. And Tim, I know you had a question you wanted to ask him.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you. I watched the last interview he gave right before he was executed with Dr. James Dobson from Focus on the Family.
Mhm.
And I wondered, because you being a psychologist and getting inside of his head, I wondered what your take was on it, because he blamed everything he did on pornography in that interview.
Right. You know what? He, everyone else, it's always somebody else's fault. It's not mine. You're going to blame somebody else. Oh, you know what? If my mother would have told me that she was my sister, I would have never done this. Or, you know what I mean? To come out and tell me early on. You know what I mean? No. Oh, no, 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 no. He, like everyone who has never taken responsibility for anything, a lot of that has to fall upon Louise, his mother. She saved him, she enabled him so many times. When his ass should have gone to jail, when he stole from different stores, she was there to get him out. You know what I mean? You know?
Yep.
So he learned how to manipulate, and he did it quite well. Okay.
Yep.
And no, but no, he never has taken responsibility, not for anything he has ever done. He continues not to take responsibility for what he does. There are some, at the one podcast that I did, or several, about Ted Bundy, and we'll go into more later, but sometimes people will hear different things during when I'm talking. And I'm not going to say what, I'm not going to put that in people's minds, you know what I mean? You know?
Right.
But again, I'm not here to glorify what he did. I just want people to not understand him, but understand how mental illness works, how does possession work, and how they at times will work together. And they are so close in so many different ways. It is hard. It is hard to determine if one is mentally ill or are they possessed. And the Catholic Church does a wonderful thing, that, with Kevin and Vivian, we can go into all the different psychological testing they had to go through prior to that. You know what I mean? You know, at any given time, for all the psychological testing that Buddy went through, they could have stopped that. They could have stopped that behavior. They
Right.
could they could have put him in juvenile court system. You know what I mean? But his mother continuously bailed him out. And the older he got, the better in knowing how to manipulate one. He got better looking, very engaging, you
Yep.
know, you know. There are other things that I can say about Ted, but they have to go in chronological order. You know what I mean? I just have given you kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
I'd let you know that about his mother really being his sister, that type of thing. But there's much more. And again, what we have heard, what this other psychologist and myself heard, came right from his mouth. Now, did we believe everything he said? we some of this stuff we had to take with a grain of salt. You know what I
Right.
mean? He wants to be out there. He wants to be, there's serial killers all over, right? But he wants to be the one that everybody thinks of. And it's true. I can talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, but nobody gives a shit about him. But you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the minute you say Ted Bundy,
Oh yeah.
oh my God, everything. Oh yeah, yeah, more about
Yep.
Ted Bundy, everything like that. One of the
That was
reasons,
me.
you know, and one of
That
the
was
reasons,
me.
yeah. And so one of the reasons why is because it was on TV, not his trial per se. That didn't happen until Scott Peterson. I write to Scott Peterson, who murdered his wife Lacey, and even to this damn
Right.
day, he said somebody else does it. But what's so sick about Peterson is also that his mom and dad believe that also. His mom and dad and sister and I write to each other once a month, and they still believe that their son is innocent. Oh, he could never do that. Oh, please, he did, for God's sake. The forensic evidence is there.
Right.
He had motive. He was there. He did it, for God's sake. You know what I mean? But anyhow, but the story of Ted, of Theodore Robert Bundy, needs to be told. And again, not glorifying what he did, but how it just can take one thing that piles on top of another, another, and another, and another. At any given time, his mother could have stopped all this, but she chose not to because of guilt. And what he had said about his mother, I have never said on any other podcast either. Never. And again, I can talk about Ted Bundy till cows come home. Everybody wants to hear about him. Everybody wants. And this one time I got a question, what was his favorite color? And so when I went, but one of the psychologists asked him that. And they go, what is your favorite color? And he said, red.
Blood. Blood is
Yeah,
red.
right. You know, well, you know what? I'm going to save that for another time. But I was
Yep.
going to get, yeah, yeah. But anyhow, he is fascinating and he's interesting. And what I experienced there, and then, like I said before, none of the other psychologists experience. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go when the interview is done and what was said and such like that because like I said, it's a chronological thing. Do you have
Right.
any other, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we had a viewer question. Do you think his mom was maybe naive to what he would become?
I think that she was very young when she had him. He was born in 1948, so just think about that time, being
Right.
unwed. And on on the birth certificate, what did it say? Bastard. They would stamp the word bastard because if you didn't have a father, right,
Right.
you were called a bastard. I think she felt that she had an obligation to keep him, and she did. And I think it was her own guilt. I think of what came out later on about who his father, because through DNA testing of who his
Right.
father was, she had to hide a lot of things. And by hiding a lot of things and not being truthful with him, it caused a lot of problems. And again, we all have free will. At any time he could have stopped if he wanted to. When I hear some of these people, well, he was too mentally ill. Bullshit. Bullshit. If he really wanted to stop, anyone could stop. Jeffrey Dahmer at times thought about stopping what he was doing, okay? But he didn't, okay? And and so we do have free will. And okay, it's just okay. Let's go back and think about this guy from Wichita, the BTK, okay, BTK. He lay dormant for 20 some years. Nothing. And it took one thing, and his narcissism came back and said, "Well, you know what? It's been a while. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody has a clue." Here he had become an elder within the Lutheran Church, you know.
Yep.
Thank you for smoking, because I love to smoke and I can't smoke inside here, so it's cool. But anyhow,
Yeah, thanks,
don't worry,
Tim.
don't worry, when this podcast's over, that's the first thing I'm going to do. But anyhow, but just the fact that his ego and the guy in Wichita and narcissism said, "Let's do it one more time," and he just got caught because of that. You know what I mean? He just became more, the computer and crap like that, and just became sloppy. It's almost like that he set himself up to fail. And a lot of times, narcissism will kick you in the butt, and people will get caught because of that too. And
Yep.
But anyhow, so when it comes to serial killers and the criminal mind has always fascinated me, because if you would take and when Ted Bundy, you know what? I'm not going to say any more about
Mhm.
Ted.
Right.
Okay, because there is more, and yeah, so I'm not going to say.
I just have one last question, real quick, and this will probably get us through. But the movie that came out a couple years ago, starring Zac Efron as Bundy, I don't know. Did you watch or have you seen it? No.
I
I
have.
wondered if maybe you watched it because it one of the things it said was that he at the very end of the movie, it comes from the perspective of his first wife. And at the very end of the movie, he comes out, he writes on the glass that he's talking to her through the word hacksaw. And I wondered if there was any truth to that, or
I have to watch the movie because I've never heard of it, you know? And a lot of times when I have met these people like Bundy and everything, when it comes to the movies and documentaries, I don't watch it because I saw the real thing. You know what I mean? You know,
Yep.
um, but you know what? Anything is possible. It really, really is. Again, did he ever use that word? No. Did he was very explicit in what he did to these women, and I don't know how much you want me to go into that next time that when we talk. I don't know if you want me to be very, very explicit, because each woman he did some things differently to them. Sometimes, you know what? I'm not going to say
Right.
anymore.
Right.
You
Yep.
know, okay, because, and again, this is coming from his mouth. Okay, he told us more than probably any other persons that he had spoken to, which he didn't do often. He didn't do much interviews. He did not do many interviews at all. And but just being with him just months before he was executed, you know. So, but anyhow, so now, like I
Awesome.
said, now who I am and what I do, and I do a lot of. But you know what, my paranormal brothers and sisters, my motto has always been that we are spiritual beings in a physical body, and the spirit is strong and the flesh is weak. And so we need to take care of ourselves, okay? Right now, my brothers and sisters, this universe is upside down. Our country's upside down. Families are being divided, okay? You know what? Penny has two sides. And I always think of love of being on one side and forgiveness being on the other side. And my brothers and sisters, that we can love so many other people, but the person who we need to love is ourselves. Okay. Nobody can hate us more than ourselves. Okay. So begin to love yourself. Begin to engage with the little child inside of you. Okay. The little child that is hurting. And also, my brothers and sisters, that we can forgive someone else for the most heinous things. But, the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. And we need to forgive ourselves, because by forgiving yourself, you can love yourself more. Granted,
Absolutely.
granted there's a lot of our brothers and sisters have put themselves on the back burner, It's time to leave the back burner and to think of yourself. And it's not being vain. It's not. I understand that in any family that there's a pecking order, as they say, right? There's going to be a scapegoat. There's going to be a caregiver or a caretaker, especially the middle child, right? But please, my brothers and sisters, we cannot change someone if they don't want to be changed. Please, my brothers and sisters, get off the back burner, go to the front, do something good for yourself, even if it's for a half an hour once a week. Do something positive for yourself. I always tell the folks who reach out to me for assistance, I always say, look into the mirror and say, there's nobody better than thee than me. The old Quaker man said that 1,000 years ago, right? But it's very true. Nobody's better than thee than me. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Your time is almost up. And if I can give my telephone number out if someone needs assistance, is that okay or not?
Yeah, that's
Absolutely. If you
absolutely.
want to do that, that's all on you. Yes.
Thank you. The telephone number is 309-213-0325. 309-213-0325. You can call me, text me. My phone's always on if you need assistance, if you need help. You get out of the paranormal closet, I'm here to help you, okay? And just remember, my brothers and sisters, that we're all on a journey. It's not a religious journey, it's a spiritual journey. And let me tell you that when my creator calls me home, and I believe in past life regression. So my past lives, I'm done with that. Thank God. When I die physically this time, I'm not coming back as anything. Thank God.
Yep.
On my gravestone, I wanted to say that I have now begun the greatest journey of my life. You know, I've had a hell of a ride, and I still got a couple of rodeos left in this old gal. But let me tell you that the journey beyond, oh my God, it's going to make this look like a cakewalk.
Absolutely.
You know. So thank you, everyone. Love, light, and peace to everyone. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and remember to love yourself so you can love someone else. Peace out.
And there's
Thank you,
no
guys.
better way to end this show. Robert, if you can hang on for just a few more minutes, we'll come back and talk to you. That'd be great.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you guys so much. Robert, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for everybody watching. We truly appreciate each and every one of you.
Absolutely.
And just remember,
If it's
paranormal, go ahead, Tim.
If it's paranormal beyond,
We got you covered.
Amen. Wonderful.
thanks for watching, everyone.
Have a good night.